He's gonna stay.
Because I think it won't be long. It might be like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes because it's very important. This is 100,000 tons. We lost Abdallah last year.
Ah, really?
Because of Samir, and we have lost the connect with him, and we not got him to speak with him.
Shows that you're like organizers, you're on the street.
They can find the table, make sure that they put the names like in front of us here, not by our feet, like by the edge of the table.
Okay.
Yes. But
also the live stream will say who you are and you'll introduce. So
yeah.
that's probably good luck. Moderating your friends.
Other way. We had to go buy some.
Okay, so if you don't have the table, you could buy by the edge of the.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. That we can take the table. And Abdullah is sitting next to you, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have a notepad?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No. Good afternoon. My name is Ezzeldeen Masri, and I will be moderating this panel today on political organizing in Palestine. I would like everyone, for now, if you can please, to silence your phone. And in a minute, we are going to start this session. Prior to starting this session, I would like also at one point to introduce our guests in here. I will start with Mr. Abdallah Hamarsheh. Abdallah Hamarsheh is the CEO and the co-founder of Zimam Palestine. Zimam Palestine is a national Palestinian movement that focus on work in the Gaza Strip and also the West Bank. They work with youth in Palestine in order to confront radicalism, extremism, and at the same time prepare the ground for a two-state solution. Next, I would like to introduce Rawan Odeh. Rawan Odeh is the managing director of the New Story Leadership, an organization that brings Palestinian and Israeli together in DC and gives them the tools and skills to create a change once they return home. And also we have with us Mr. Bashar Azzeh, and he is a Palestinian that had finished his PhD in political economy from the United States, and he also has a master in management. Mr. Bashar Azzeh is one of the youngest elected members of the Palestinian National Council and Palestinian Central Council. As you know today, this session will be focused on political organizing in Palestine. And we are going to shed the light on opportunities, also on challenges when it comes to doing politics in Palestine, in particular, working with the youth. So by the end of this session, you will understand what grassroots organizations working in Palestine, what also political parties working in Palestine, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities that faces political parties and also grassroots organizations working in Palestine. By the end of the session, we are going to have a Q&A, and I wanted everybody to be prepared for the Q&A once we finish the portion that has to do with the speakers. Have your questions ready and lined by the microphone. Thank you very much. My first question will go to Mr. Azzeh. What are the challenges and opportunities for the rising generation, and how do they feel about the future of their people's leadership?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces. Well, this is a big question today. I mean, the Palestinian society is a young society. 70% of the Palestinians are under the age of 26, making somebody at the age of 38 an old guy. And this is actually the opportunity that the Palestinians have today. With such a young community and young generation, I'd see this challenge as an opportunity challenge. And from there, I drive the rest of my discussion today. The challenge that we face today is that we have to understand that the Palestinian society have to deal with two issues: the daily life of the Palestinians and the occupation. And these are two separate systems that the Palestinian young population have to deal with in their daily activism when it comes to how they are organized. And from there, you can see, really understand how those people are looking into to be part of the political spectrum of the Palestinian society. So right now, in the Palestinian structure, you have the PLO, which is a representative of the Palestinians, not only in the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, but also all over the world. And this is the entity that holds the political arm and the political aspect of the Palestinians. And you have in Palestine today the PA, which is the entity that was created after Oslo Agreement to manage the daily life of the Palestinians. And these are two separate organizations when it comes to a system by itself. Now, the young Palestinians today, they see themselves very interested in joining and becoming part of the political system. And this is so because they see that their participation should be should be viewed as a way to be, that we have seen that, especially if we go back to the Arab Spring and what happened in Syria, a bit going on in Lebanon and Egypt and so on, they understand that maybe right now being politically active and participating is the right way to do it rather than just going to the street. And this is very important. And I believe that we have heard lately the President Abbas calling for election. I think he's very serious to go for election. And this is going to be a very good test on how the young population is going to be receptive to this. Are the young population going to organize themselves to be part of this election on the PA level? Are we going to see young people become either active with existing political parties or active with independent groups to be part of this election? I believe that the challenge here right now is how would this young population that have not seen elections since 2006, there's a whole new generation that came up since the last election of the PA. How can we get this generation to group in either with existing political parties or with new independent groups that will be to be part of that election? I think that is the challenge that we need to work on in the near future.
Thank you. Great. I will ask a question next for Mr. Abdallah Hamarsheh. As a representative of a civil grassroots movement in Palestine, please tell us why we need such grassroots movements in Palestine while there are over 20 Palestinian political parties.
I want to speak Arabic to speak about details about this issue, my English a little bit, and as can to help me translate. Thank you, Az. Thank you everybody to coming. بداية الأحزاب والفصائل والحركات الوطنية الفلسطينية خلقت من أجل تحرير فلسطين يمكن من أكثر من 55 عام. وهاي الفصائل خلقت وانبثقت من أجل بناء دولة فلسطينية ومن أجل إنهاء الاحتلال الفلسطيني لفلسطين. لكن مع تطور البرامج وتطور الحياة السياسية في فلسطين لاحظنا ونلاحظ عدم تطور في هاي البرامج. نحن كمؤسسات نقدر ونحترم ونبجل هاي التضحيات لهاي الفصائل، لكن للأسف الشديد لم نلاحظ تجديد في برامجها، في أطرها، في سياساتها، يعني من أجل إعادة تنظيم الحياة السياسية في فلسطين ومن أجل يعني مواكبتها للعصر.
So his answer first goes, so these 20 or so Palestinian parties in Palestine were established prior to the 1967 war. So we're talking about almost 53 years, 55 years. And their platform spoke about liberating Palestine, meaning Jaffa, Safad, Haifa, Al-Mijdal. And since then, 53 years later, now we're in 2019, this is not the case, because as most of you knows, that the Palestinian Liberation Organization in 1988 had introduced a new vision to end this conflict. And the Palestinian Liberation Organization was content, and is still content, with the 22% to establish a national home for the Palestinian people in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem as the capital. So Abdallah said that he has all the respect for the Palestinian political parties. Those are the ones who fought and sacrificed over the years in order to keep Palestine and to keep the dream of having an independent Palestinian state. Unfortunately, these political parties did not introduce changes to their platform, in particular after Chairman Yasser Arafat in 1993 with the Oslo Agreement exchanged letters with the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, in which Chairman Yasser Arafat had recognized Israel and the 1967 border, and also Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin had recognized the PLO as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people.
Yeah. النقطة الثانية يعني الأحزاب والفصائل الفلسطينية يعني ممكن أنا كنت أحد هاي الأحزاب يعني مشارك في هاي الأحزاب. أنا كنت فاتح وأنا في الانتفاضة الأولى وبداية الانتفاضة الثانية، لكن نلاحظ أنه هاي الأحزاب لا تمثل جميع أطياف الشعب الفلسطيني، وهناك في أصوات يعني في صوت مش مسموع، هو صوت بده يشارك، أو صوت بده يشارك يعني من خلال المجتمع المدني، من خلال يشارك في همومه في لا تقليص همومنا في الهم الاقتصادي الاجتماعي التنموي. وهنا بيجي حاجة ل يكون في دور تكاملي بين الأحزاب الوطنية الفلسطينية وبين الحركات أو الجمعيات والمؤسسات المدنية.
Abdallah said during the first uprising, he was also part of the Palestinian political parties. Actually, he was part of one of the biggest Palestinian political parties, that is Fatah, with its chairman Yasser Arafat. However, he also mentioned that not everybody in Palestine is part of these political parties. And there is a big majority among Palestinian people who are not part of these parties. So here comes the role of grassroots organizations opening a venue for the people to be able to participate in the political process.
النقطة الثالثة وهي أنا بشوفها مهمة جدا، إنه دور المؤسسات المجتمع المدني والجمعيات والحركات القاعدية كمان مهم في التواصل مع المجتمعات في أوروبا في أمريكا، وأيضا عمل اختراق للمجتمع الإسرائيلي من أجل يعني الشرح عن الصراع الفلسطيني الإسرائيلي، ومن أجل عمل هذا الاختراق في المجتمع الإسرائيلي من أجل إنهاء الاحتلال وعمل أو ضم أصوات من والتأثير على الأصوات في الداخل الإسرائيلي من أجل إنهاء الصراع وإنهاء الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لفلسطين.
Abdallah said the most important point for him is point number 3. There is the difference between Palestinian political parties and civil organizations or grassroots organizations is the fact that civil society organizations and grassroots organizations has connections with the international world. For example, Europe, with America. And also, to some extent, these grassroots organizations and civil society organizations also open channels with the Israeli public and try to find partners for peace inside Israel, and also try to influence the Israeli public toward accepting peace with the Palestinians and the end of the occupation. Okay, so now I will ask a question to Rawan. Rawan, how does your organization encourage Palestinians to become more politically involved?
Oh, it's on. Okay. Hi, everyone. That's a great question. New story leadership and what we do represents creating a new story. And I'd like to acknowledge that me sitting here today as a 24-year-old Palestinian woman from Hawara is the new story. So how does my organization encourage Palestinians to become more involved? I think I can describe it in one word: empowerment. That is what's missing within Palestinian youth and the younger generation, and talking about actually raising their voices. So what New Story Leadership does, it recruits Palestinians from Gaza, from East Jerusalem, West Bank, Hebron, refugee camps, and it brings them to the political capital of the world, Washington, D.C. And what we do, we tell them, you're here now. You're going to speak up, stand up, and raise your voice. We met with Senator Bernie Sanders, and I want to share this story that explains the impact. One of our NSL delegates, Nidal, told the senator, Senator Bernie Sanders, my name is Nidal. I'm a nurse from Hebron. While wearing my Red Cross uniform, giving first aid in Hebron, I was shot by an IDF soldier. Senator Bernie Sanders, you need to understand that Palestinian medical staff need to be protected. The senator looked at him, called everyone in his staff, interns, staff, foreign policy, the chief, and told them, you need to take down notes. And looked at our Palestinians and said, what else do I need to know? That is one sentence that Palestinians are desperate to hear. What do I need to know to make sure you are the next generation that is going to lead a new democratic Palestinian state? And that is how we do that.
Thank you, great. Mr. Azzeh, in general, we see that younger generation leads the street change, protest, as in Egypt, Lebanon, Tunisia. But when it comes to participation in governments, after the success of these revolutions, it's almost insignificant. What's the problem?
This is exactly, we have to go back to the challenge, which is how you get the young people to participate. And there is hard work. If you want to get a university degree, you have to go to college. If you want to be a politician, you have to go through the system of being a politician. And this is exactly where the problem is. At a young age, most people are at the front of their life decisions, either to pursue their career in a specific business or a specific sector, and at the same time, political activism consumes a lot of time. And this is exactly where the challenge that young people have today, not only in Palestine, but all across the world. And I think this challenge is an important, it's very important to really look into how the older generation of politicians could give a hand to the younger generation to follow on the steps that they already have. And this is why I'm a believer of what I call contiguity of generations. I disagree with no continuity and contiguity between generations. The idea that each generation have its own attributes and not connect to the other generation is a big mistake. In our case, in the Palestinian side, I see there is contiguity with the older generation. The current leadership of the Palestinians in the West Bank, I can say it's very close to the population. I mean, here, you got Dr. Saib sitting in the front row. We see him every day. It's not somebody like strange to me. And I think what we need is to really invest on this contiguity, both from the elder generation and the young generation have to understand and be recipient to the idea of this contiguity. I wanted to just point out something. The elephant in the room is occupation. Let's not forget that. And when you look at that elephant, you have to understand that our struggle, I have a problem with people asking the Palestinians to be perfect under occupation. I do have a problem with this. We're under occupation. And under occupation, you cannot be perfect. The perfection. And oh, if you are perfect, then we'll give you your state. It doesn't work that way. Give me my state and then start measuring me. And that's exactly what we should look at. Now, on the last point on young generation, I believe that even, yes, we mentioned there's 20 plus organizations already in the PLO. I'm part of one that was small. I came in, I joined, and I worked my way up. And I think if there is 20 plus, we need to renovate some of them. The young people can come into those organizations, renovate them, and build from within, rather than going into something that doesn't exist. Even if they want to start a new one, the PLO system allows this. We have the Moderator, the initiative came up, after this creation of the PLO,
yes.
And it's now a member in the PLO. What we need is we need the young people to organize. Let me just say how, and this is how I believe. How the young people can organize is simple. They need to get together and they need to decide what is exactly their vision. If their vision is to be the next parliament member of the National Council, of the PLO, of the PA Legislative Council, there is going to be election hopefully in the next 6 months. The president already said that. We know that's going to happen. They need to come with a list, independent list of youth. 20, 25 people from Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the West Bank. They can organize themselves. They can even get funding from Palestinian private sector. They can have a list and they can run for election. Maybe your friends can come with a list of independents and run for election. We need to work. And if we don't do the work, we're not going to get the outcome.
Great, thank you, great. Mr. Hamarsheh, can you please tell us what your activities include in Palestine and the challenges you confront?
We have more challenges. I want to start about what we do in Palestine with youth and with the social in West Bank and in Gaza. بداية احنا بنشتغل مع الشباب الفلسطيني ومع المجتمع الفلسطيني من أجل بناء مجتمع ديمقراطي قادر إنه يكون ويساهم في بناء دولته الفلسطينية المستقلة المزدهرة.
So first I wanted to start by saying that we work with the Palestinian youth both in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. We work with them in order to prepare the ground for a future Palestinian state that is independent and also democratic.
وزي ما أشرت أنا في البداية احنا يعني نكمل الحركات الوطنية الفلسطينية في عملنا من خلال برامج تدريبية وورشات عمل مختصة وورشات عمل تنطي جودة وخبرة للشباب الفلسطيني إنه يكون قادر على المساهمة في بناء دولته وإنهاء الاحتلال.
We work in parallel with Palestinian political parties in order to prepare the youth and give them the skills to be able to participate in the political process.
احنا عندنا برنامج تدريبي هو الاساسي في بناء قدرات الشباب ونتعامل بشكل شهري مع حوالي 500 شاب وصبيه في الضفه الغربيه وقطاع غزه من خلال برنامج تدريبي اساسي ومتقدم ومؤخرا الحاضنه الشبابيه اللي هي باكوره انشطتنا من اجل خلق قيادات شابه قادره انها تمثل نفسها وتمثل مجتمعاتها الفلسطينيه من خلال تمكينهم واعطائهم الخبرات الكافيه انهم يشاركوا في الانتخابات او يشاركوا في البلديات او الانتخابات على مستوى الجامعات في كل المجالات. وهي الحاضنه ان شاء الله في خلال السنه بتكون اولى تخريج لاول فوج في المؤسسه عندنا.
Great. So Abdallah said that they work with almost 500 Palestinian youth, both in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And they do so three programs. The basic training program, the advanced training program, and they have something special that is called the Leadership Incubator. And all these three programs are supposed to produce young Palestinian moderate leaders that can be leaders within their community and also participate hopefully in the election at one point.
Yeah. برامجنا التوعوية من خلال سياسة كافيه والديبيت ومؤتمرات وورشات هاي دائما احنا يعني بنحرص على خلقها فمن خلال ادارتها من قبل الشباب والمتطوعين في المحافظات الفلسطينية وقطاع غزة. وايضا تهدف هاي الى كسر الفجوة بين القيادة السياسية وبين الشارع الفلسطيني من خلال تشبيكهم عن طريق عمل وتصميم هاي المؤتمرات وهاي الندوات.
So along with the training programs and also the leadership incubator, he also mentioned that the youth, the volunteers of Zimam, also engaged other Palestinian youth, both in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and also East Jerusalem, the future capital of the Palestinian state.
Yeah.
And he also talked about initiatives that the youth introduce in coordination with the Zimam leadership in order to bridge the gap between the political parties and also the political leadership and the street.
أيضا المبادرات والأنشطة التي تتقاطع مع هموم المواطن الفلسطيني والمناسبات الوطنية الفلسطينية والتحديات الوطنية الفلسطينية. ومثال على ذلك يعني بآخر نشاط عملناه كان في أريحة، مش آخر نشاط يعني هو يمكن قبل سنة، بس هذا مثال جيد لإعطاء مثل على الأنشطة اللاعنفية والمقاومة اللي احنا بنحاول نغرسها في شبابنا الفلسطيني. نزلنا على خط 90 في أريحة، حملنا يافطة طولها حوالي 1000 متر من خلال 500 شاب وصبية، وكان شعارها عنا وطن بدنا دولة.
So Abdallah also said we also organize big initiatives, and he would like to share with you a special initiative that they had implemented in Jericho, in which the volunteers of Zimam and others held a banner over 1 kilometer. The banner was over 1 kilometer. Yeah. And basically the theme was, we have a homeland, we need a state.
Yeah. التحديات ذا تشالنج يعني الاحتلال مش شجرة، الاحتلال مش تحدي بسيط، الاحتلال هو التحدي الأول والأخير أمام الشعب الفلسطيني.
He said the occupation, the military occupation, the Israeli military occupation is real. And it is #1 challenge for the political process in Palestine and for doing politics in Palestine.
الاحتلال بيأثر على كل شغلنا، على شغل المؤسسات المجتمع المدني، على الحكومة، على الحركات. الاحتلال هو عقبة حقيقية في إرساء مجتمع ديمقراطي يتقبل الآخر، يعمل على بناء ذاته وبناء دولته.
The Israeli military occupation is the biggest obstacle to us Palestinians, in particular on the political front. Youth and activists confront a huge problem when it comes to doing political work. And also you must remember that when we speak about Palestine, Palestine is 2 regions. The mountainous region, that is the West Bank, and the coastal region on the Mediterranean Sea, that is Gaza. And it's very hard, it's almost near impossible for Palestinians to travel between the West Bank and Gaza without the permission of the Israeli military occupation.
I want to say example about how the occupation challenge. يعني في عنا متطوعين و3 جروبات في قطاع غزة بنشتغل معهم 3 سنين. الآن لا هم قدروا يجوا ولا احنا نقدر نصلهم، وفقط من خلال السوشيال ميديا او التلفونات احنا بنشتغل احنا وياهم، رغم التحديات اللي كمان هي موجودة عندهم أكثر من عندنا في الضفة الغربية. لكن هذا الاحتلال بمنعنا في التواصل الجغرافي كمان ان احنا نتواصل مع أشقائنا ومع اخوتنا في قطاع غزة.
He said, I just wanted to cite an example. Zimam exists in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. However, for the past almost 3 or 4 years, we haven't been able to bring our activists from the Gaza Strip to the West Bank in order to participate in initiatives, in order to receive basic training or advanced training. So again, he wanted to stress the fact that the Israeli military occupation stands as the biggest obstacle for political organizing in Palestine.
التحدي الثاني انا يعني احنا كشعب فلسطيني بنعتبره مهم، الانقسام الوطني، الانقسام في داخل الشارع الفلسطيني بين فتح وحماس وارتداداته. هذا تأثيره بشكل كبير بيأثر علينا ويؤثر على عمل المجتمع الأهلي ويدخل في تفاصيل عملنا اليومي بشكل دائم، واللي هذا بنحاول دائما احنا نتغلب عليه.
The second most important obstacle to political organizing in Palestine is the internal division between the 2 biggest political movements in Palestine. There is Fatah. Fatah stands for the National Palestinian Liberation Movement, and also between Hamas, which stands for the Islamic Resistance Movement. These are the 2 biggest political parties in Palestine, and almost for the past, let's say, 13, 14 years, an internal division between the 2 biggest parties existed since Hamas coup against the PLO and the Palestinian Authority in the Gaza Strip back in the summer of 2006. So this is the second most important challenge, and its ramifications on political organizing in Palestine is very bad.
تحدي ثالث، يعني كثير تحديات بس من أبرزها كمان موضوع الدعم وتوفير الميزانيات للمجتمع المدني، اللي هاي دائما بنواجه مشكلة فيها، خصوصا إنه الدعم في عند المسلمين وعند العرب في أغلب بيكون هو مربوط بشكل ديني أو مربوط بشكل يعني التقرب من الله. اليوم هنا التحدي تاعنا كيف احنا ننمي فكر عند المؤسسات وعند الداعمين انه كيف يصيروا يستثمروا في الانسان الفلسطيني وفي الشباب الفلسطيني من اجل بناء غد افضل ومن اجل بناء مجتمع ديمقراطي قادر على تحمل مسؤوليه نفسه.
So he said also number three, challenge number three is securing fundings for our programs. And this is a big challenge because the nature of like Arabs or Muslims is usually, if you are familiar, we have the zakah. And that goes out for charity and also for religious purposes. But when it comes to funding for civil societies or grassroots movements, we actually confront a shortage when it comes to that. And that reflects negatively on our programming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Question number two for Rawan, and I'm going to try to finish this within maybe, we have one question for each, okay? Because we wanted to allow for Q&A. So we're going to go question number two for Rawan. The landscape of today's Palestinian political movement can be described as divided, polarized, and lacking of women's voices. How does your organization work to overcome these challenges? And please, let's keep it under 3 minutes because we still have 1, 2, 3 questions. Thank you.
I don't know about that, but okay. So in order to answer that question, I think I'd like to give you a bit of framework of what it's like for Palestinians today to kind of paint that picture. And I'd like to use that using the News Story Leadership alums of 2019. Thawra, which means revolution in Arabic, is from East Jerusalem. She has no Israeli representation or Palestinian representation because of the military occupation. And her 16-year-old brother, Muhammad Abu Khader, was burnt alive by the 3 Israeli settlers. That's East Jerusalem. Then you go to Gaza. Lana, our NSL delegate from Gaza, hasn't been able to see her 4-year-old sister in years. And her sister doesn't recognize what she looks like because she left for a scholarship and hasn't been able to return because of the 10-year siege. Not only that, but Lana's best friend was filming the protests at the border and was shot by an IDF sniper. That's Gaza, and that's one of a million Gazan stories. Then you have the West Bank. Our NSL delegate, Muhammad, from Azun, couldn't get the medical treatment that he needed during the Second Intifada because the IDF created a full blockade and closure in his small village of Azun. He's now 60% paralyzed. These are the stories that aren't unique or rare. These are the stories of the realities that is creating this polarization. The polarization is created by the borders, the checkpoints, the walls. And then you have the lack of women voices, which I think is very important everywhere, all over the world. So how does News Story Leadership overcome that? We placed Thawra at Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office. Not only did Thawra explain to the Congresswoman about the implications of the occupation, but she helped push her to co-sponsor the Palestinian children bill that would protect Palestinian children from IDF prisons. That is power. That is political power. I'll tell you another funny story of our time on the Hill. I won't mention the congressperson's name, but we had a congressman that had an NSL delegate from Gaza, and AIPAC came to visit the office, as AIPAC normally does, on Capitol Hill. And the congressman said, Muhammad, you're going to come with me in this meeting. And the AIPAC lobbyist is going on and on about Israeli security to the congressman, and he says, Muhammad, what do you think, as someone from Gaza? And Muhammad for sure told him what he thought.
Great.
And so to overcome those, and then finally, we also placed, we placed Lana with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's office. For the first time, Lana's a hijabi. She saw a hijabi working on Capitol Hill, a lawmaker. We placed Hiba Yazbek, a Palestinian from Nazareth that faces daily microaggressions by the Israeli state, is treated as a second-class citizen for the first time in her life. She was working alongside the first ever Palestinian congresswoman and said, finally, I see an idol I can look up to. That's another thing we need to overcome. Finding idols that look like us all over the world. And finally, I think one of the most important things that New Story Leadership does, it teaches our Palestinians how to tell their story. Because you know what? Our story matters. And we need to learn how to say it in a way that people will listen. So that when the time comes for reconciliation to be had, we have the younger generation ready to speak up and demand their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Rawan, I want to give you extra minute maybe to cite for us examples of these young leaders going back to Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem, and using the talent and the skills to become leaders in their community.
Very good question. Right now, if we look at the landscape, our alums, New Story Leadership has been going on for 10 years. The first ever Palestinian boxing gym was created by two Palestinian alums, Asil Saeed and Nasser, NSL JUC, Nader JUC. Hamza Awauda is also an NSL alum. He was the director of Yali Young Leaders, a very important initiative empowering youth in media and explaining to them and teaching them how they can raise their voices using online media. We also have Ashraf Awauda, who is now the alumni coordinator for Our Generation Speaks, which is a multi-million-dollar entrepreneurship organization that works to make sure that there's social impact within the Palestinian community, and obviously me. So,
thank you. Great. Mr. Azzeh, your final question number 3. With Palestinian geographic fragmentation, how much does this affect political mobilization?
I think this already has been mentioned a lot by Hamarsheh, and that the geographic fragmentation and the Israeli occupation fragmentation, even inside the West Bank, internally because of the number of checkpoints. There's still roads that the Palestinians cannot drive in the West Bank. But before I answer this, I want to mention 3 things that I believe are fundamental for the Palestinian youth. And this is what you can do, because we are here because of you too. What is it can you do? I think there's an issue that nobody discussed, that it should be brought up. What about the Palestinian security? We keep hearing Israeli security, Israeli security, Israeli security. All right, but what about the Palestinian security? The Palestinian youth today in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, do not feel secure. And this is a thing that we need to work on, and this is something that you have to work on as progressives. Is it time to say there is Palestinians and there is Palestinian security in line, in parallel to the Israeli security? That's one. Second one, exposure. Rawan, you mentioned this. Hamarsheh, you mentioned this. The more we can expose the young generation to what's going on in the world, the more that we can get them to be more active. And this is why you have to support more exposure of the Palestinians. We don't control our borders. We cannot get people in and out. The only way we can get this young generation to be exposed is through programs. So you really have to work on this and supporting this. And this is really fundamental. And the third issue, fragmentation. Unfortunately, occupation succeeded in doing a lot of fragmentation to the Palestinian society. And it's not only geographical. Unfortunately, they've been fighting hard in creating psychological and cultural fragmentation. We have to fight it. Together we have to fight it by saying that the end of occupation is what will be the only way to end this fragmentation. Now we can find new ways to work on it. Technology is growing. We can find ways to work with technology. But this should not place us in a way to forget that this physical fragmentation is the mother of all problems. So what we can do is simple. We need to get as much as possible young Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank back together. This physical geographic fragmentation, it's a problem. Most people in the West Bank do not meet young people from Gaza. Really. I mean, because both people cannot travel. So how can we really think of creative ways under occupation, while we really cannot tender this, to happen? Also, how can we work with the Congress and the Senate here of coming with a bill that will allow young generation and some people of specific age to even travel freely from the West Bank, at least to the Palestinian side in the West Bank, sorry, between Gaza and the West Bank. We have to work together in getting this young generation connected back. And I think that's an issue internally also, that the Palestinian, and I make no mistake, this is my last comment. The problem we have with Gaza, it's not Fatah and Hamas. I completely disagree with that. I have a problem with looking at it as a Fatah and Hamas, and we are all sitting watching two people fighting. It's also an ideological problem between two different ideologies that exist in the leadership in the West Bank and the leadership of Gaza. That's exactly a problem. And I think what we are paying is the price as people of these different ideologies. There's an ideology in the West Bank that's calling for non-violence, calling for peace and negotiation, which is we as young generation today are more in favor of, and I think we all can agree on. And there is unfortunate, which is Hamas also is a part of the Palestinian society. Hamas is no enemy to me. Hamas is a Palestinian political party, but they have an ideology that we don't agree on. So we need to convince Hamas to come and be part of the PLO and agree with the strategy that we have and ideology in the PLO. That's exactly what we need to do internally. So it's not a Fatah and Hamas issue. It's an ideology issue, and we need to bring Hamas to be part of the PLO. That way they will be part of the Palestinian mainstream.
Well said. Thank you. Well said. Mr. Hamarsheh, do you believe that the civil grassroots movements in Palestine capable of engaging in the political process and the peace process and can effectively contribute to the end of the conflict and the occupation?
Yeah. مؤسسات المجتمع المدني والحراك المدني في فلسطين طبعا لا أكيد كان له دور وراح يكون له دور في أي عملية سياسية فلسطينية وأي انتخابات فلسطينية على مستوى التشريعي أو البلدية أو حتى الرئاسية. وإحنا شفنا هذا الحكي، يمكن عزة حكى هذا الموضوع، إنه إحنا شفنا المبادرة هي انبثقت من جمعيات ومن مؤسسات يعني قاعدية، انبثقت وصارت وشاركت حتى على مستوى الرئاسة، شاركت وعلى مستوى كمان التشريعي شاركت.
So Abdallah said the civil society organizations, NGOs, grassroots movements in Palestine in the past, in the present, and in the future will play a vital role in the political process and also the peace process. And he cited the example of the Palestinian initiative led by Dr. Barghouti, and he said that it came to exist from civil society coalitions around different NGOs and different individuals, and they were able to have a political party that has an impact on the political process in Palestine and also the peace process to some extent.
في مخصوص الموضوع السلام كمان المؤسسات المجتمع المدني يعني كان من بداية أوسلو وحتى ما قبل أوسلو يعني في المفاوضات السرية كان في لها دور رئيسي في كسر الفجوة بين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين، واستمر هذا الدور. وأنا أعتقد أنه في المستقبل إذا ما رجعت المفاوضات راح يكون في لهم دور رئيسي لعمل ضغط وخصوصا في الشارع الإسرائيلي من أجل يعني إرجاع الصوت المعتدلين وصوت السلام داخل المجتمع الإسرائيلي، لأن احنا شفناها في آخر 10 سنين ما بعد نتنياهو قديش الصوت المعتدلين وصوت اليسار صوت اليسار في إسرائيل اختفى وبطل موجود. في مهمة يعني على الشعب الفلسطيني انه ينمي هذا الصوت ويحكي انه في شريك فلسطيني وفي هذا الشريك الفلسطيني موجود، لازم ننمي شريك اسرائيلي يؤمن في انهاء الاحتلال وانهاء الصراع يعني واعاده بناء الثقه.
So he mentioned that the grassroots organizations and civil society organizations, in particular when it comes to the peace process, since its inception in 1993 and the signing of the Oslo Agreement, there was a need to bridge the gap between the Israeli position and the Palestinian position on the final status negotiation issues, for example. The Israelis has expectations, the Palestinians has expectations, and the gap is big in between them. And that was evident in the Camp David negotiation between Chairman Yasser Arafat and back then Prime Minister Ehud Barak. the Palestinian delegation and the Israeli delegation disagreed on many points when it came to the final status negotiation files. And here comes the civil society organizations and the grassroots organizations working in Palestinian society, maybe in Israeli society also, to educate the public about the need to end the occupation and the conflict, and also to prepare the ground for the upcoming solution. So definitely, yes, he said that the civil organization or civil societies or grassroots societies can have an impact. Personally, I sit here as the moderator, but in the same time, I'm one of the founders of OneVoice movement, which works on the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians. And some of the works we had done in Palestine when I was in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank is working and doing town hall meetings and introduction sessions and working with our own people, our own society, the Palestinians, to explain to them what are the challenges to the peace process, what are the position of Israel, what is the position of the PLO, what is the position of the international community, what can be expected as an outcome from the peace process. So there are a lot of challenges, but also there are a lot of opportunities, and civil societies and grassroots organization role is vital and very important. Final question, question number 3, will go to Rawan. And then we're going to open the floor for Q&A. So if you have a question, please have a question ready and stand by the microphone. Thank you. I see a lot of people lining up. So if you have a question, please. Okay, fantastic. Okay, now our final question will go to Rawan. The negotiation stalemate and the increasing hopelessness of the Palestinian society is making a peaceful resolution seem almost impossible. How does your organization work to move towards one?
Great question. So I think, it's sort of the elephant in the room in every single conversation about Palestinian, Israeli reconciliation. What does civil society do? How does that relate to the political process? What New Story Leadership does is presents a new model of intersectionality. We're not just bringing Palestinians to talk to one another or to talk to Israelis. We're bringing them in the conversation, the political conversation, in DC, and also the diplomatic conversation. This past month, we had an alumni conference, and we brought our alumni with American, Irish, and Swedish diplomats. And our Palestinian alums facilitated discussions with those diplomats about the political, economic, and social situation and how we can move it forward. So, what did our Palestinian alums say to the US diplomat? We don't have a neutral party anymore, people. What did they say about economic integration versus political integration? We need a political end goal. It cannot only be political integration. These are young people that are not only saying this as a token Palestinian. They are saying this to leaders and policymakers that are finally listening to the people. That is how we create reconciliation, by empowering the people and making sure they feel a part of the political process so that it's not separate, but working together towards one goal. And if you all would like to support an organization like ours, go to our website.
Great. Thank you. So as you see, the challenges to political organizing in Palestine can be summed, 1, the Israeli military occupation, and 2, the internal division between the two biggest political parties, and other reasons our panelists have introduced. Now I will open the floor for Q&A. Can you please identify your name, and if you are from a particular university or political organization, also say that, please. And the question for who?
My question is for Rawan. So I hear a lot of talk among young Palestinians and some young progressive Israelis about working towards a one-state secular democracy between the river and the sea. And I'm wondering if you're hearing that from young people that you work with, and how do you respond to that?
I mean, no. Well, the thing with New Story Leadership, we don't have a political answer of what we think the solution might be, but from the conversations and the meetings that we have with our Palestinian alums and delegates and our Israeli alums and delegates, they both recognize the need to each have their own self-determination. Now, when there are Palestinians that say, you know what, life is so difficult. I'm surrounded by 5 Israeli settlements. I see IDF soldiers every day. How am I going to ever envision a Palestinian state? That's a different story. That's someone that has lost hope. And I think we need to remember that when we hear those conversations. So yeah.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you so very much to all of you. My name is Eva Seligman-Kennard. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area for J Street, of course. My question also is for Rawan. First of all, do you have visa problems getting in here, your folks that you want to invite here? Secondly, your funding, who they get the funding from? And thirdly, are you also speaking with the Jewish community? Are your fellows also speaking with the Jewish community? Thank you.
I actually didn't catch your name. What was your name? Ava. Okay, Ava. So you asked a few things. So with our funding comes from everyday Americans that believe in our mission and goal. We place our delegates in American host families in the DC, Maryland area. We also get funding from churches, synagogues, mosques. So obviously the interfaith community is also a strong one in terms of our funders. Do we speak to Jewish communities? Absolutely. We definitely engage with Jewish communities. We speak to synagogues. We speak to Jewish youth groups. And we also understand that the Jewish American community has a huge role to play with ending the conflict. I forgot your last question. Oh God, yes.
Did she answer it? Okay. My name is Tom Getman. I was an NGO executive in Jerusalem and a UN representative to the Human Rights Council. Civil society, thank you for being our models. And I want to say thank you to J Street for having such as you here. That's great. We have a problem in the civil society movement. We do a lot of work for you here on the Hill, raising money for projects and so on, but we're being stifled on your end because we don't have advocacy from the Palestinians to protect us. We've got staff people in prison. We've had staff people expelled. Our funding is blocked from hospitals and other places. Do you have an access route? Bashar, do you have an access route that we can work with?
I really don't know I don't know the case, but if there's a case, definitely I would love to help and take exactly what is the problem and understand why there is a problem in the first hand, and how can we solve the problem.
Right.
Are they imprisoned? Where? I mean, you have staff who are imprisoned?
Yes.
In the Palestinian...
4 years for trumped-up charges, pardon the expression.
No, it's all right. I mean, in the end, I would love to look into this case.
Okay, I'll talk to you after.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Philip. I come from the Colorado College. And I was wondering about the political support for the two-state solution and how does it pose a challenge for your political initiatives in Palestine? Do you think it's sufficient for the two-state solution to happen and for your mobilization, political mobilization, or no? And what can we do about it?
Who's the question for?
All of you, or anybody who wants to answer.
Okay, so Mr. Hamarsheh is going to answer your question, okay? And Hamarsheh, السؤال هو عن حل الدولتين وهل بإمكان الحشد من أجل حل
الدولتين. طال الحديث عن حل الدولتين.
We spoke about the two-state solution for a long time.
الشعب الفلسطيني قدم تنازل كبير في حل الدولتين.
The Palestinian people had already introduced a big concession when it came to the two-state solution to make it possible.
في يعني المجتمع الدولي ممكن والمجتمع الإسرائيلي مش فاهمين هاي المسألة، لكن احنا قدمنا تنازل كبير فمن أجل حل الدولتين. يعني أبو عمار خطوة كبيرة في هذا، في 91 في مدريد وفي 93 في أوسلو، من أجل يعني بناء دولة على حدود الرابع من حزيران. لكن التحديات كبيرة بهذا الموضوع. شو بدنا نعمل؟ ففي كثير أشياء نعملها.
So he said again, the Palestinian people had introduced painful concession in 1988 in order to make possible for the emergence of a two-state solution. We've been at it for the past almost 26, 27 years, and it seems that it's a long time. And maybe some Israelis and some Jewish people don't understand these big concessions that the Palestinians had introduced in order to make possible the two-state solution. But I assure you that the Palestinian people had introduced very painful concessions. For example, 78% will be the state of Israel, and only 22% will be for the Palestinians. But until now, we didn't reach that yet.
الواقع في الضفة الغربية، إذا بتيجي تزور الضفة الغربية بتطلع من جنين للخليل، بتشعر انك انت فاهم في يعني في غابة من المستوطنات.
If you leave, for example, from Jenin, which is in the north, to Hebron, El Khalil, which is in the south, you feel that you are in a forest of Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
في اعتقادي المستوطنات هي العقبة الأولى والكبيرة فاهم في تحقيق يعني حل الدولتين، بالإضافة ل يعني عدم وجود قيادة في إسرائيل تؤمن في هذا الحل وتؤمن في واقعيته وإمكانية تنفيذه على أرض الواقع.
So again, he mentioned that the settlements are the biggest obstacle, Israeli settlements are the biggest obstacle to the two-state solution. And also he mentioned that we need political leadership in Israel wanted to implement the two-state solution.
وأنا في مجتمع في مؤتمر الجاستريت فهم يعني أغلب الحضور هنا يهود وإسرائيليين، فهم أنا بدعوهم من هنا للضغط على قيادتهم من أجل تطبيق حل الدولتين وإنهاء الصراع الفلسطيني الإسرائيلي قبل ما المستوطنين يعني يتحكموا في كل يعني في الأرض وفي القيادة الإسرائيلية.
And from here, from Washington, from the J Street Conference, where are many Jews and Israelis, I call upon you to exert pressure and your leadership in order to restrain the settlers and the settlement movement, because if it continues to be like this, the settlers are going to hijack the agenda and they are going to control what will happen.
I just want to add one thing. By exerting pressure, it's not a hard thing to do. Just call your representative. If you're passionate about a two-state solution, an Israeli state alongside a Palestinian state, call your representatives and say, you need to get on this now. So that's just to give you practical advice.
But just, there's an issue here. The issue of two-state, one state is not an issue of, for us, the Palestinian state is not only borders and sovereignty. It's also the right for self-determination. The right to exist. Make no mistake, this is exactly what we're looking at. It's not only just the issue of borders and sovereignty. There's a lot of unions right now in Europe and other places where border is not an issue. But the right of self-determination and existence is what these young people are looking for. Now, is it a two-state or one-state model? If they get this dignity, freedom, and justice, then the model itself is not an issue. And we don't want to focus on the one-state, two-state, ignoring the fundamentals as a human being that those people should have. That's the answer to your question.
Okay, thank you. 1 second. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we have 5 minutes, okay? So I'm going to allow each one of you in less than 1 minute to ask your question, and then we're going to have like 6, 7 questions, okay? And then maybe some questions are similar, okay? But I want to hear from all of you. Say your question, your name, the organization or university you are from, and then please allow for the other person behind you.
Sure. My name is Josh. I'm from the University of Illinois. I guess my question would be for either Bashar or Rawan. During the first Intifada, there was a lot of women-led, labor-led movements. There were strikes in the West Bank. There were a lot of different protesting factors that really seemed to spur on the Madrid conference, which in turn spurred the Oslo Accords. And yet it doesn't seem like there's been anything quite like the second Intifada was much different than the first one. So it seems like that one was a lot more labor-led. Where is that? Like, will we see more of that? Because that would be, I think, a really productive thing to see. Bernie 2020.
Thank you. Bernie 2020, fine. Next.
Jason Berkovich from San Diego. Here in the U.S., we're fortunate to hear from Julian Castro and Mayor Pete. Later, we're going to hear from Bernie Sanders. We also have Elizabeth Warren, wide age spectrum there. In Israel, you've got Ayelet Shaked and Tamar Zandberg. On one side, you've also got Bibi, who's been around for forever. On the other side, Ehud Barak's been around for a while, too. So there's a wide range in ages as to who's politically active. I'm wondering, within the PA, the PLO, Mahmoud Abbas is in his 80s. You've got Mashal, who's in his 60s now. Where's the next generation within Palestinian political movements? Who are the next generation of Palestinians that we need to listen to?
Great question.
They are on
Thank
the
you.
stage.
Thank you. Next. Your name?
My name is Jonah Karsh. I run the J Street U chapter at the University of Miami in Florida. My question is for everyone, but maybe more specifically Rawan. You talked a lot about the importance of the Palestinian youth that come to work in Congress. Hearing from Congress people, what do you need from us? I want to ask that question on behalf of J Street. As a pro-Israel organization, there's going to be a level of implicit bias, but J Street, we care about Palestinians. We want to see peace. We want to see human rights for everyone. So my question, just very briefly, is like, what does J Street U need to be doing and J Street Big need to be doing to make you guys feel heard?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, J Street U. Next.
Hi, my name is Kara. I also run the J Street U chapter at Harvard. And I feel really fortunate that I get to hear from you, and every time I hear from Palestinians who come to the U.S., you all have these incredible stories, and I know have overcome incredible challenges to be here and have, with all of the challenges with visas and travel within the Palestinian territories and to get to the United States. Can you speak practically about what it's like for a Palestinian to try to come out, to leave the country, to travel from the West Bank to Gaza, so I can share those stories with people I speak to here in the U.S.?
Great. Thank you. And I wanted to send a shout out for J Street U. We were there on the night of the opening and we heard your position on Palestine and we support it. Thank you, J Street U.
Hi, my name is Yoni. I'm from Harvey Mudd College in California. Thank you so much for being here. Bashar, you mentioned how necessary it is to mend the division between Hamas and Fatah. Do you think that's possible, and what do you think are the obstacles and opportunities for making that happen? Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Mary from Northwestern University. I was wondering about what Palestinian liberation really looks like beyond states, and how that feels and looks like, and talk about that.
Thank you. Northwestern University in Chicago? We'll talk. Next.
Hi, my name is Zach. I'm from Stony Brook, New York, and my question is for Rawan. There's an experiment going on in Rojava, Syria, which is the predominantly Kurdish region, and it's based in non-hierarchical self-determination to oppose Assad and the jihadist rebels. Do you believe that, considering that the Israeli political class diverges heavily from their population and the people they're annexing, that this is a viable model, the Rojavan model for Palestinians?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm getting signs. Do we have time? Oh, fantastic. 5 more minutes, okay? Great. So each one of you can pick, yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, okay. I wanted to end. It's okay. J Street U, what can you do? Bring more Palestinian voices to campus so more students understand. The young lady that asked about how Gazans get out, it takes years, 3 years. Our average in News Story leadership in getting a Gazan to Washington, D.C. takes us 3 years. And the stories are horrific. I don't think we have time for that, but I'd be happy to point you to our wall of stories on our website where you can hear just how horrific it is for them to even get the opportunity to come here and speak up. Palestinian liberation movement. Oh, that's all I wrote. Okay. Forgot the question.
Mr. Azzeh, you want to take a question?
She will have a minute in the end to end it up. I'm sure she has something exciting to talk about more than I will do. But the questions, the second intifada versus the first intifada. The first intifada was a different, an uprising. It's an uprising that started with a mix of civil and national rights. The Second Intifada, we all know the armed conflict that existed. But I can tell you and guarantee you that the young people today are the people of the First Intifada. They are the people of the civil society, they're the people of non-violence, and they are the people of peace. They do not view violence as a way to end the conflict and to end the occupation. So if that's the question, I'm answering you and I'm telling you, this is exactly the generation that we have today. But the conflict we had in 1989 is not the conflict we have today. We have Oslo, there's an agreement. Palestinians respect the agreement, while Israel is not even respecting 1% of that agreement. While nobody holds Israel accountable for unilaterally pulling out of those agreements. Most people ignore the fact that Israel is not respecting Oslo agreement. This is really a fact. And nobody at the Capitol Hill is talking about it. We need to talk about it. Israel is obliged to fulfill its commitment to that agreement. The second question, as I say, it's not Hamas and Fatah. It's a mistake to say it's Hamas and Fatah. It's a different ideology that Hamas have, yes, and that the PLO in the West Bank have. I think this could be over. Definitely would be over. But first, we need to get a lot of those players out. Gaza is not only Hamas. You have international presence there. The regional presence of many countries who are interested in this division, including Israel and including Palestinians who are interested in this. Is there a light in the end of the tunnel? Yes, because reconciliation, Palestinian reconciliation is an important issue. You need Gaza to be part of a Palestinian contiguous state, or there is no state.
Thank you. Yes. Good point. Thank you. Yes. And finally, Abdallah will take a question or a remark, and then we'll have your minute, Rawan. Yes.
المتطرفين موجودين في كل مكان.
Extremists are present everywhere.
الاستيطان والمستوطنين يمثلوا هذا التحدي الكبير قدام الفلسطينية والإسرائيلية من أجل إنهاء الصراع.
The settlers and the settlement enterprise really represent a big challenge for both Palestinian and Israeli who wanted to end this conflict.
يعني سألوا عن قصة الفيزا، في أحيانا في مشكلة إنك تروح على القدس من رام الله للقدس اللي هي كلها 10 دقائق، بتقعد يمكن بدك يومين مشان تفوت من رام الله للقدس.
So the lady asked about if Iran has a visa, but I wanted to tell you that if you want to travel from Ramallah city to Jerusalem city, which takes 10 minutes, you need at least 3 days to get there, and sometimes you don't because the Israelis don't give you a visa.
هذا الواقع لازم يتغير.
This situation must change.
وهذا دورنا.
This is our role.
في العالم كلياته.
In the whole world.
مارتن لوثر كينج في هنا في واشنطن حكى أنا I have a dream.
Martin Luther King here in Washington said I have a dream.
أنا في جي ستريت هنا بقول we have a dream.
Here in J Street I say we have a dream.
We have a dream to end the conflict. We have a dream to end the conflict.
To end the conflict.
To end the to end the occupation and to do peace.
All right. Great. Rawan, you want to have your 1 minute?
Oh gosh, you guys all got up. But what I wanted to say, and I thank you all for coming and listening to the younger generation of Palestinians that are ready to rise to the moment. And we will, but we need your help. And you can help us by this very simple saying that New Story Leadership says all the time. Don't talk about us without us. Include us in your political conversations and make sure that the Palestinian voice rises to the moment to a Palestinian state and ending the occupation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.